what I'm saying? Yeah. The fanatic. Where we keep it 100, keep it real. That's the only way we know how to be. Talking that sports talk. You know what I'm saying? Straight out of South Carolina. Upstate, 864. Yeah. The FANATTIC. The fanatic where we keep it OG. We talking sports, so I call what.
Welcome into the Fanatic Sports Channel for sports fans by a sports fan. It's your boy, Coach I. All right, man, we got a first here on the Fanatic, man. Been doing this thing for about a year and never had any Texas fans on or any representation from the Longhorns, man. And now I don't have one, I got two, man. And I'm going to let these guys introduce themselves, tell you what they do, where they can find you. And also I want y'all to tell the people how you became a Texas Longhorn fan. We'll start with you, Jeremiah.
Yeah, my name's Jeremiah Padgett. I run the Sideline Sports Network, the Longhorn account. Man, I've been a Texas fan since I was about 5 years old. I had an uncle that loved Texas, and he turned me on, just seeing his love for it, and I've loved him ever since. I love the eliteness of Texas. I always have about they are the University of Texas. There's nothing after that. They are the flagship university, and I've always loved that, man. And I'm a diehard fan. Will be till the day I die.
That's what's up, man. All right, Jonathan, tell them what you do, where you can find you, man, and why you became a Texas fan.
Yes, sir. The daily host of Locked On Longhorns, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You can find me at Locked On Horns on Twitter, Locked On Longhorns on YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast. I was 12 years old. I was a military brat moving around a lot. This was 2005, and my mom got deployed, and I was having some issues with my stepdad. So my grandfather, who lives in Arlington, I was living in Georgia at the time. He was like, come back to Texas. And I was a Cowboys fan, but I really wasn't really into college football yet. Well, of course, if you're a Texas fan, you know what happened in 05. So I come back and I start watching college football with my grandpa in 05. And that just happens to be the year they win the national championship. And then I've been a Texas fan ever since. So that's a crazy story, but that's how it happened.
That's what's up, man. That is what's up. For those out there, I will be tailgating at the Texas Bama game. Anybody that's gonna be out there, I will be out there tailgating. I'm a big tailgater, man. I like to go in the stadiums, but I don't like to miss the other games that come on at the same time. So yeah. I like to find a nearby bar and go watch all the games after the tailgate, man. So if you are in the Austin area when Bama rolls to town, check us out at the Fanatic, man. Let's go ahead and jump into this, man. Hey, the Longhorns, we're going to see, are they back? Actually back this time. All right, man, let's talk about some key losses and returners, man. All right, we'll start with you, Jonathan, man. Like, who's the biggest loss, if any? Or do you think anybody that you lost is replaceable?
So I was thinking about this the other day because Sark said he wanted to bring in 30 new football players, and he brought in 35 new football players. And I think that this football team is more talented than it was last year on almost every level. But I got an answer for you, and it's not the sexy answer, but it's 3 levels of football. It's Cameron Dicker. We don't know. We're bringing in a new kicker, a new punter. You know what I'm saying? We have so many question marks on special teams. We've been so focused on the offense, the defense, who's going to be the quarterback. Special teams wins games, and we don't know what our kicker is going to be able to do this year because we haven't seen it in real game situations. And so I don't think there's anybody on the offense or defense that left. That's going to be a huge loss for the Longhorns because I think most of the units improved. But right now we have a question mark on the special teams, and Cameron Dicker was a sure thing at Texas for 4 years. So I have to say the biggest loss for this team was Dicker the kicker.
Hey, man, listen, people don't understand, man. Kickers are valued. That's why kickers be getting fired so much in the NFL because they like, look, you got one job, dog. Don't lose no game for us. You know what I'm saying?
They say with offensive linemen, if you know an offensive lineman's name, he's doing something wrong. It's the same thing with a kicker. You know what I'm saying? When you got to worry about your kicker, you know what I'm saying? It's bad news. And we didn't have to worry about a kicker. He showed up on the scene in 2018 and beat Oklahoma with that leg. So we haven't had to worry about it for a long time. And we're gonna have something new this year kicking, so could be a concern losing Dicker the kicker.
Could be, man. Jeremiah, your sentiments the same, man, or you thinking a little something different about anybody that you guys lost?
Man, I kind of agree with Jonathan on Dicker the kicker for sure, but I'll just say this: we didn't have a single player drafted in the NFL draft. So we didn't lose much.
Yeah, there you go.
That's
There you go.
Call it what it is. Ain't none of these players that left good enough. I mean, none of them were good enough for the league to get drafted. So I think all these new players Sark is bringing in, it's addition by subtraction. You know, start these young guys, man. Let them get their lumps in early. Build off of that. But no, kicker, I agree. You know, Dicker, we're not sure about what's going to happen there with Dicker the kicker, but I ain't going to miss hardly any of these guys, to be perfectly honest with you, because they're just average at best.
You kicking some facts, man. I'm not saying that every major contributor for every major team goes to the NFL, but you're right, man. If you'd have not one person drafted and a whole bunch of people left, I'm like, somebody had to be, either good enough or not good enough, and it easily replaceable is what you can say. If it's NFL talent, I definitely know a little bit about that because we lost a lot in Athens, man. So, but you guys do bring back what I think is the best running back in the nation, Bijan Robinson. Some people will say, the guy at Ohio State or Tank Bigsby or whoever, but I think Bijan is one of the best in the nation. You bring back Xavier Worthy's first team All Big 12. You got some key additions, man. Who you looking forward to, Jeremiah? Like, what addition are you looking forward to this team for this year?
I think Isaiah Nair is going to be a huge addition on the wide receiver spot from Wyoming. I think he's really going to open that pass game up. And then Jordan Whittington, if he can stay healthy and be that slot guy for us, he's going to be our third down guy, but he hasn't made it a full season healthy. So if he can stay healthy, he can really open up that offense too. And, with Bijan, I love Bijan. Bijan's a beast. I love Roschon Johnson too. And I want him to get his touches too, because he's a leader. He's an alpha. He's a dog, and I love the dogs, man. So he deserves to get paid and get that ball too, So those are kind of my three guys that I'm looking out for. I know what Worthy's gonna do, but Whittington and Nair, I think, are really gonna help this team this year.
And Nair, man, at Wyoming, man, that dude had 12 scores. He averaged 22 yards a catch. I mean, that dude was big time. Yeah. I mean, people look at it and say Wyoming, but Wyoming's always had a good offense, regardless of what conference they play in. Jonathan, man, what about you, man? Any love for the Bama transfers that came in, man?
No, I mean, you got a Jai Hall, who's very talented. I think he can take any play to the house, but it's a really talented receiver room, and I think a Jai Hall is still in that adjustment period. So I can't really speak to what type of impact he'll have this year. Similar with, Jaleel Billingsley, I think that, he'll be your starting tight end, but, you have JT Sanders and Gunnar Helm, who have really impressed in the spring as well. And so it's hard to really get a read on what their roles will look like this season. I think Jaleel Billings will have a bigger role than a Jai Hall. But, like I said, it's just hard to tell right now, if definitively, one of them will be an integral part of the offense each and every week. Jaleel Billingsley has a better chance, but we just don't know that right now. Maybe by the end of fall camp, we will. I want to go to the defensive side because Jeremiah talked about, the offensive side. And you talked about Isaiah Nair when he was able to do 878 yards and 12 touchdowns, 20 yards of reception in an offense that only threw the ball 35% of the time. I think Sark's going to throw it a little more than 35% of the time. I think so. I'm going to go to the defensive side, and I want to talk about the addition of Diamante Tucker-Dorsey. When you look at this Texas football team, they probably lack the most depth at linebacker. I think that defensive line may be the biggest issue right now, but they have some talented players there. They have some depth there. They probably lack the most depth at linebacker. And you get Diamante Tucker-Dorsey, a very talented player from the FCS level at James Madison, and he's undersized. And he's like 5'10", 215. But, just your inside linebackers, you need them to have that heart, that dog, that mentality. Jeremiah talked about dogs, right? That mentality of an inside linebacker. And when I look at his stat line, this is just a player that I know, regardless if he's on the FCS level or the FBS level, he's a player that's always around the ball, and he's a player that makes plays on the ball. When you have 110 plus tackles, 9 tackles for loss, multiple sacks, multiple interceptions, multiple forced fumbles, that tells me you're a playmaker. And I think that's going to translate to Texas. You put him at inside linebacker. He's already got a pick in fall camp. He's done really well. And I think, he allows you to have an inside linebacker that you can really trust. He's athletic enough to make plays. He's a hustler. He's going to get to the ball, and he can cover in space. And then you put him next to Jalen Ford, who got a lot of spot playing time last year. But when he got in the game, he exploded. I know most Texas fans remember that play in the Oklahoma State game where they had got within 2 and went for the 2-point conversion. And Jalen Ford just flew and met the ball carrier at the line of scrimmage and stopped him right there. He didn't go anywhere, and they didn't get the 2-point conversion. But I think not only the addition of Diamante Tucker-Dorsey, putting him next to Jalen Ford gives you two formidable, really athletic dogs at the linebacker position. What it allows you to do is to be flexible with your best player on defense, which is DeMarvion Overshown. We know that this team really is lacking a pass rush right now. And you're still going to have, Agent Zero, DeMarvion Overshown as your off-ball linebacker making plays in that regard. But you're going to need some juice in your pass rush. If you have Jalen Ford and Diamante Tucker-Dorsey at linebacker, you can say in certain situations, hey, Agent Zero, go rush the passer. Just be our best athlete on the team and go get to the quarterback. And so that's why I think Diamante Tucker-Dorsey is going to be one of the biggest additions on this Longhorn team, not only because he's a dog and he's a beast at the linebacker position, which we've been lacking for years, but it also gives you more versatility on the defense and allows you to use DeMarvion Overshown in a lot of different ways. That's going to cause havoc for offenses in the Big 12 and in non-conference play.
I'm glad you brought up the pass rush because I was going to ask you about that when you went to the defensive side. You guys only had 20 sacks last year, nobody having more than 2.5. And hey, listen, man, you can score till the cows come home, as we've seen time and time again. But unless you can make that key stop, and sometimes that is a sack, man, it doesn't mean a lot. So do you think it's going to be more scheme this year, or do you think you have that player that's going to actually get after the quarterback this year and kind of get at least close to some double-digit sacks?
Yeah, I'll take this one. I think that it's going to be probably scheme and just being creative. When you look at it, this is the first time in, I think, 4 seasons that Texas has had the same defensive coordinator in back-to-back years. So I just think the defense will be a little bit better with continuity, this being Pete Kakowski's second year. But, I think there's some young players they're counting on. They did bring in 8 freshmen in the 2022 class. In the trenches, and so I know some of them are going to get some spot passing down roles. I think Justice Finkley is going to get a lot of playing time this year as a true freshman. They have players they really like in Ovia Gofu and Barron Sorrells who they're looking to take that next step. But this defense doesn't have a Joseph Osai, right? A player that you can say every week, go out there and be a factor in the pass rush right now. So I think they have some players that they're really hoping can take that next step, some players that they hope will develop throughout the season. But I think, your pass rush is going to come more from scheme, blitzing, and being creative than just straight up winning with a 4-man rush.
Okay, I can definitely see that, man, and hopefully the defensive staff can get that done because, like you say, everybody doesn't have those guys that you can just say, hey, man, it's time. It's 3rd and 8, man. Go get the dude and leave it at that. But with that, man, you guys, let's look at the schedule. Last year, you guys were 5-7 overall. You only won 3 games in the Big 12. I know as a fan, that's got to be rough regardless of the change in coaching staff and all that. But Jeremiah, give me 3 games, dog, that you say these games right here are going to be the games that really, test us or that we could likely lose or something like that.
All right. So I think my 3 is going to be Texas when we head to Kansas State and Manhattan. When we head to Stillwater, Oklahoma State. What's the other road game? And Baylor. Those are my 3 games. Steve Sarkisian as a head coach is 13-27 on the road. That's from USC to Washington to Texas. He's got to be able to reverse that trend and be able to win games on the road. It's one of the most glaring stats about Steve. And I love Sark. I think he's the guy. But he's got to be able to overturn some of that and start winning games on the road. But I think those 3 games are going to test us the most. Baylor and Oklahoma State especially. It's almost like Oklahoma State's, it's like a mental thing that they just play up to our level or better than us when we play them for some reason. We always seem to have more talent than them, but they find ways to beat us. But, those are my 3, especially Baylor with Dave Aranda. He's got that defense rolling, and he put it on us pretty good last year. We were shorthanded, at the time, but still, that defense kind of worked us over. So those are the 3 games I'm looking at that are going to be our toughest games, I believe, and I'm including a Bama loss.
Okay.
I'm not
Okay,
counting
but
that.
you kind of did what I wanted anyway. We're talking more. I should have said more Big 12 anyway. Like, I mean, I know the outside, the outer conference games matter, but unless you like legit think you about to win the national championship, outer conference is definitely not as, because you could actually technically you could lose to Bama, win all your rest of your games, and still had a shot at getting to the playoffs. But that was a stat that I did not know about Sark on the road, man.
A nugget for sure.
That is
That's a nugget.
That is for sure. That was a good one, Jeremiah. And you right. That is like, you guys got Kansas State on the road. Luckily, you do get Baylor at home. Texas Tech, I don't think it really matters where you guys play them at.
I think we have 7 home games this year. So to counter that nugget, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I think we have 7 home games this year.
Exactly. If it's Achilles heel, it is away games, at least this season. Sometimes to win, man, the schedule, you got to have things go your way. Health, you got to have a schedule like 7 games at home, all your hard games at home. But you guys do play Oklahoma State on the road. So, Jonathan, what are your 3 games, man? The games you're looking at, like, these right here going to define us this year.
So he mentioned Alabama at the end. I was about to say, you're forgetting somebody, right? But I think Kansas State is a great pick. I love that pick. So many people are high on Kansas State this year, and they have one of the best running backs in the country. Not the best, obviously, but I love Deuce Vaughn. And I think Adrian Martinez will have a really good year in Manhattan. And you just know it's always a tough place to play in Manhattan. I'm going to echo Jeremiah with the Baylor pick. Obviously you have to give respect to the reigning Big 12 champions. And when you look at it, Texas comes into the season with question marks on the offensive line and the defensive line, and Baylor does not at all. They have a top 5 offensive line in football, and they have a really good defensive line coached by a really good defensive coach, a really sound technical coach in Dave Aranda. And so it never really matters in that game about the talent discrepancy when you have an elite coach like that and you're elite in the trenches. So Baylor is definitely a game to watch out for. I'm going to go Oklahoma, and I know Texas fans are going to jump on me for this and what happened last year, but I just don't get the sentiment amongst Texas fans that Oklahoma is done or that they're just going to fall off. I just don't get it. Like, what have we seen from Oklahoma that'll tell us that? First of all, Brent Venables is an elite defensive coach. We know that the defense is going to be elite. Maybe Jeff Lebby, maybe you're not sold on him or not, but he has put up some explosive offenses with the quarterback he's working with now in Dylan Gabriel. And Brent Venables, he may be a little goofy, he may be a little wacky, but I'm watching Hard Knocks right now with the Lions, and I see Dan Campbell, who's just as wacky, and they're not winning games, but the team rallies around them. And I think what's most important is that Brent Venables is a galvanizer. Like, you can say what you want about him being a little wacky, a little goofy, but you can tell that team will galvanize around him. And he's going to have that team with a one band, one sound mentality. And he's going to have them ready to go every week. And it's Red River rivalry. Like, they're going to thump a little harder in practice that week. They're going to study a little harder. They're going to watch the film a little more intently, and they're going to be ready to play. So I just don't get the sentiment amongst Texas fans that we're just going to roll over Oklahoma this year and they're done since Lincoln Riley left. That's a blue blood program, and I think they're still going to be really good at football this year. So it's definitely going to be one of our toughest games with Oklahoma. I'm going to say Baylor. I cannot echo Oklahoma State. I know it's a tough place to play in Stillwater, but I just have no faith in Spencer Sanders. We did a really good job in the first half last year of making him have to throw the ball. In the second half, we couldn't sustain a drive, and they literally just ran it like 80% of the time in the second half and beat us. I cannot see Oklahoma State beating us. So he already mentioned Kansas State, so I'm going to throw another one at you. I'm going to say West Virginia. I think with the addition of JT Daniels, a transfer quarterback, really talented. He hasn't never, been able to, like you said, put together a full season, but he is very talented, right? You look at Graham Harrell, former Texas Tech quarterback. I think he's up there calling the plays at West Virginia. They have some really explosive offensive potential at West Virginia. And as we saw last year with Kansas, shootouts can go either way. Typically, shootouts come down to who has the ball last. Oklahoma had the ball last, so on and so forth, right? And so if you get into one of those high-scoring, explosive games where each team is taking turns scoring, it could come down to a turnover or anything like that at the end of the game that could put the other team on top. And so I don't think we'll lose to West Virginia. I'm more scared of Kansas State than West Virginia, but just to give a different answer than Jeremiah did, I'll throw West Virginia in.
Oh, man, both great answers from both of you guys, man. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pose one more question before we move on to the next topic. If you could win only one game this year, would it be the Oklahoma game, because that's y'all like arch nemesis rivalry, or the Bama game? Jeremiah, you go first.
Yeah. Oklahoma, hands down.
That's a fan right there.
Yeah, I'll take a win over Oklahoma because those losses eat at me for a whole year. So I'd take a win over Oklahoma any day. I mean, Bama's a powerhouse. You know, I can deal with them beating us, but losing to Oklahoma, no. I'll take the win over Oklahoma every damn year.
What about you, Jonathan? You going with Oklahoma too?
It's Oklahoma, and I'll give you 3 reasons. One, as you mentioned earlier in the show, the Alabama game has no bearing on whether Texas will make the Big 12 championship game or not. We can go out there and lose 50-0 to Alabama and still be the Big 12 champions. So it's like that game doesn't mean anything. And Texas doesn't have national championship aspirations this year. So like you said, the Bama game literally means nothing, right? 2, since I've started doing this, I've realized I knew how big the rivalry was between Texas and A&M and Texas and Oklahoma. But man, since I've started operating a Texas Twitter and all of this, they argue all day, every day. So if Oklahoma beats us, like that Twitter is just gonna be all day, all year with receipts and just and y'all said this and y'all been talking this. Like you just have to, that Alabama smoke is a million miles away, but Oklahoma is just up north. You know what I'm saying? We got to beat them. And in 3, we had a 25-point lead on them last year and let them come back and win. Like you have to avenge that. You have to avenge that. Those are my 3 reasons why it's Oklahoma. The Alabama game, I mean, whether you win it or not, you could beat Alabama and get shaky in conference play and it not mean anything. So it has to be the Oklahoma game.
You just took what I was about to say because Bama's so early. I know Bama. I mean, I get it. I'm a UGA alum. We finally got over the Bama hurdle in the Natty. Hey, listen, I couldn't be happier. But if you beat Bama that early in the season, you think those 18 to 22-year-olds won't be full of themselves? And like you say, you can go into the Big 12, pull around, lose to Oklahoma. Now they go into the Big 12 championship. Let's just face it, everybody loses to Bama. Nobody. So it's not much of a thing to deal with, like Jeremiah was saying. But losing to Oklahoma, man, you got to hear that every day, all day for 364 until the 365th day when you get to play them dudes again, man. Yeah. So with that said, man, this next topic, man, what Texas needs to really be back. What I'm gonna say is, it starts with things like not losing to Kansas Jayhawks. Like you gotta win the games that you're supposed to win before you can be an elite team. So that's what I'm gonna say that Texas needs to start with. You know what I'm saying? It's other stuff that can come into play, but to start with, you can't lose the games. Like you mentioned at West Virginia, Texas brand is bigger than West Virginia. I think it should get to the point, even if they haven't beaten you, where that game's not in question for Texas to be back. So Jonathan, I want you to start with that one, man. What does Texas need to really just be back?
I think just the simple answer is you have to be a perennial conference championship contender. And I think before fans can confidently say Texas is back, I think you have to be one of the 4 teams in the college football playoff. I mean, winning the Big 12, like as Jeremiah talked about, this is a blue blood football program. This is the University of Texas. This is the 40 acres, right? So even if we win the Big 12 this year, Texas is not back, right? That's, you know what I mean? That should be goal number 1 every year, right? Like that should be your floor. Thanks. You know what I'm saying? It's Big 12 championship game. So I think perennial conference championship contender, I think every year, whether it's these last few years in the Big 12 and even in the SEC, right? I think you need to look at Texas as one of the teams that should be able to compete for a conference championship game appearance and title, whether it's the Big 12 or SEC. But I think even if you do that, the college football playoff should take care of itself, especially with a brand like Texas. You know what I'm saying? They're waiting to throw us in there. You know what I mean?
Like brand, exactly. They are.
But I need to see at least one college football playoff appearance before I can say Texas is really back, confidently.
I'm with you. Jeremiah, what about you, man? What does Texas need to really be back?
I think I'll kind of just go a little different route. I think they need stability more than anything. What we do in Texas is we panic after 3 years and we ditch the dude, hire everybody else, Strong had some rough years. I won't lie about that. Herman did some good things, but his culture was pretty rough too. Sark, my goal is for us to see this through. Sark got a 5-year deal. Let's see it all the way through to the 5 years and then readdress it. Don't give him an extension after 2. Don't give him an extension after 3. Let's see how it plays out. Let them develop that culture and get it ingrained in the program. where we're not switching these cultures on these kids, and they're coming in and learning this new culture. Now we're doing it this way and this way and this way. So I think that's a big part of it, is having some consistent culture, man. You might have to ride through Sark 10 years. He might not win a national championship in 10 years, but he'll have a stability. Like, if you think how long it took Kirby Smart to win a natty. You know, he's at Georgia for a long time before he won a national championship. But in Texas, we panicked and we got to hire the next guy. You know, we got to hire the next guy if it doesn't work quickly. So I think we need patience with Sark, and we let him develop his culture and his system and get his players in there, and then we can kind of tell where we're at that point.
I think that's a great answer, man, because I mean, y'all had Matt Brown for so long, such, you know, stableness. Then you go into the guys that you named. You had Strong, Herman, now Sark. Like, these are like vastly different coaches. I mean, was able to meet Coach Strong. He's all about discipline, doing things the right way. He had a pipeline to Florida. I had heard some rumblings about some of the donors say, hey, get the Texas kids. He's like, I want the Florida kids. I don't know how all that went, but then he was out. Then Herman was in. He's got a different culture. Then he's out. Now Sark is in. I think that's a good point, man. You got to actually have some time. And who knows, maybe Sark isn't the guy to win the national championship, but he's the guy to do like what Jonathan said, keep getting you to the college football playoffs. So that now, because like you mentioned Kirby Smart, but I try to tell people it didn't start with Kirby Smart. It started with Mark Richt. Like, listen, I'm older than you guys, but when I was at Georgia, we had Ray Goff my first year, and we couldn't beat nobody. And then we got Jim Dunning. 5 years of straight bowl games. Hey, it was better than what we was doing. Then Mark Richt came in. Mark Richt was winning 10 plus games a year. He was smelling the natty here and there, but he won a couple SEC champions. And then Kirby took us to the next level. So everybody serves their purpose. But I agree with both of you guys, man. I mean, you definitely have to do these things if you want to actually be back. And with that said, man, we're going to get y'all on record with some predictions for the 2022 season, though. I want to see if you guys are on the same page or not. So, Vegas has you guys at 7 wins. That's what Vegas has you guys at. So what we'll do is we'll do what we call win game or win totals. We'll give a point for a win. We'll give a half for a toss-up, and we'll give no points for a loss, of course. So, and then we'll just go back and forth. It doesn't matter who takes it first. We'll just go, Jonathan, you go first, and then Jeremiah, you go second. So we already know, well, I'm assuming ULM Warhawks is a win, right?
Yeah, we can go. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, listen, you can't be back if you can't beat Louisiana Monroe. Yeah. All right, we got Bama in the second game at home. Jonathan.
Loss.
Yeah.
All right. UTSA with Frank Harris and company.
Win.
That's a close win, I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
Definitely a tough team. It's a win though, but a tough team for sure.
That's what's up. All right, then you got to go to Lubbock, where nobody wants to travel in Texas, and take on Texas Tech.
Win. My bad. Win.
All right.
Win.
All right. Now you got that game that you was talking about, Jonathan. It's the West Virginia game, but it is at home.
Win.
Win.
All right. Okay, so we good right now. We both 4-1. All right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now you got the Red River rivalry, Red River shootout, whatever name you holding on to, where the records really don't matter, man. So what you got, Jonathan?
Toss up.
All right. What you got, Jeremiah?
I got to go win, man. We got to beat them. This is the year. We got to start beating this team. So win.
I like it, man. Then y'all follow that up with an Iowa State game at home.
It's definitely a win. I don't say definitely because we lost to it last year pretty bad, but it's got to be a win for sure.
I'm calling it a win. It's a win.
Right. That's what's up. Now, at one of the teams that actually went to the Big 12 championship, Oklahoma State, you got to travel to their stadium. What we doing, Johnson?
It's a win. Like I said, get out early, play defense, make Spencer Sanders throw the ball. You shouldn't have any problems.
Jeremiah?
I got it as a loss.
Oh, okay.
I'm guessing by October 22nd when that game happens, that's going to be a night game in Stillwater. Nothing good ever happens at night in Stillwater. So that's just one of those games. I think we slip up. Gundy pull something out of his hat to get us.
I got you. Gundy, well, I actually did a video with an Oklahoma State fan. I told him Gundy's kind of like Mark Richt, man. He'll win 10 games, but he can't get over the big one. Something about it is just they just can't do it. Then you guys get a much-needed off week before you travel to Kansas State to take on the Wildcats. Win. Okay. Jeremiah, listen, Baylor and Kansas State returned the most players out of any two teams in the Big 12.
Yeah, I'm going with the win.
All right, that's right. Taking down the Wildcats in Manhattan. Then you come back to take on a team that nobody seems to know anything about in the Big 12, and that's TCU.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a win against TCU for sure.
Okay. Jeremiah?
Yeah, because it's a home game, I'm going to call it a win.
All right. Let me ask y'all, since y'all Texas fans, y'all know, is there actually a rivalry, any sort of rivalry between Texas and TCU?
I don't know. I mean, not really. Like, it's not a huge rivalry. I think when Gary Patterson was there and, he started to actually beat Texas, I think, it kind of came more of a talking point, but I wouldn't call it a rivalry, no.
I got you.
I dreaded playing TCU every year since Gary Patterson's been there. He's outsmarted just about all of our coaching staffs for the last 20 years. So, yeah, that's one of those games I always circled. Every year people are like, oh, that's a win. And I'm like, I don't know if that's a win. We play like 2-7 against them since they've been in the Big 12. So it's not always a guaranteed win, but I'm going to say win this year.
All right. And the game that you guys lost in OT last year, 57-56, you got to travel to Lawrence, Kansas.
Kansas is going to be a win. I say we put up close to 56 and they don't put up anywhere close to 57, right? So we come back and avenge the loss to Kansas in a blowout.
Yeah, this is going to be an 11 a.m. game. It's going to be cold and dreary in Kansas, and we put at least 60 on them. And I don't think they put 10 on us, honestly. I think there's some big revenge factor there, and all the smack talk they've had to hear all season, they're going to put it on them this year.
Oh, man, and then you guys...
They'll put 10 on us. I don't know. I think they'll get 10. You know what I'm saying?
Then you guys got a Friday game to finish out the regular season against Baylor at home. What are you thinking, Jonathan?
So I picked this team to go 9-3. I picked the Bama loss. I said toss-up with Oklahoma, because you're not gonna catch me on any podcast saying we're gonna lose to Oklahoma. But I've only given you a loss and a toss-up so far, which means I think that we're gonna lose to Baylor. I just think that, like I said, I have all the respect in the world for Dave Aranda as a coach, and Texas fans have been preaching how games are won and lost in the trenches, and they have the best trenches in the Big 12 on both sides. So I think Baylor gets us that week, and then we possibly get them in the next game in the Big 12 championship.
That's facts. All right, Jeremiah, what you thinking, man?
I actually agree with Jonathan. I think that's a loss, mainly because if Baylor can make us play their game, then we're going to get stuck, and we're going to end up losing that game. If we can get in a high-paced, high-scoring game, I think we got a chance. But if it turns into a grinded out, couple possessions here and there, man, it's going to be tough. But I think Miranda still kind of gets us this year. Okay. So if we're going by the tally, Jonathan, you got him at 9.5, which is like you said, 9-3. That half could go either way. And I think Jeremiah, you gave a win for that one, so you got him at 1, 2, 3. You got him at 9.
Yeah, because he did Kansas State, Oklahoma, and Alabama. No, Oklahoma State and Alabama.
Yeah,
no, he had Baylor.
He gave
4 losses, right?
No, just 3.
Oh, you said we'll beat Kansas State. I'm sure.
Yeah. So, but hey, man, I think that's a successful season after having a 5-7 season. If you guys go 9-3, and if one of those losses is to Bama, it's the Big 12, man. Somebody else could have. That means you would only have 2 losses in the Big 12, and somebody else could have 2 losses in the Big 12 as well. So you just never know, because you guys play that round robin. It's not divisions like the SEC, ACC, and the Big 10 or whatever. So. If you guys, what is like a record that you do not want to see this year? Like, of course, 5-7, but like, what's okay, and then what's the floor and what's the ceiling, Jeremiah?
I think the floor is probably 8-4.
Okay.
And I think the ceiling is 10-2. Honestly, it's kind of my feeling on it. we just have to show some progress. We can't have a losing season for sure, and 6-6 ain't gonna get it done either. And we were in a lot of close games last year, so I think just by the way football goes, we're gonna get some more bounces in this year, and turnovers, whatever it is, are gonna go our way this year, and we'll get it to that at least that 8 number is the bottom for me.
Yeah, man, you right. You guys only had 2 double-digit losses all year last year, and that was the Arkansas and Iowa State. Everybody else, it was single digits. So, I mean, it's right there. Even though it was 5-7, a lot of those games could have went another way, and you guys could have easily been 7-5, 8-4 last year. Jonathan, what you thinking, man?
Hey, that's the Nebraska argument, right? They went 3-9 last year, but all 9 losses were by 9 points or less, right? So if you just flip, if you just win some 1-possession games, right? But I think that the floor is 8-4. I don't think there's any reason this team should be 7-5 or worse. And I think the ceiling is 11-1. I think they're going to lose to Bama regardless, but I think every other game they'll be the most talented team on the field. And so is it likely that they'll go through Big 12 play unscathed? No. But if you're just talking about the ceiling, like I said, every Big 12 matchup, they'll be the most talented team on the field. So I could see the ceiling being 11-1 with the 1 loss being to Alabama. Do I think that'll happen? Of course not. But that's the ceiling of this football team.
Hey, that's what's up, man. There you have it, Texas fans, man. If you agree with Jeremiah, Jonathan, or don't agree, which I'm pretty sure some of y'all out there will do, get in the comments and let us know what's going on before we get out of here, man. You guys will get a chance to tell them where they can find you again. Jonathan, go ahead, man. Let them know where they can find you.
Just once again, Locked On Horns on Twitter, Locked On Longhorns on YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, etc. Just excited for some Texas football on September 3rd, and excited for them to be able to avenge a 5-7 season and Sark to get going in his second year. This is a really talented football team that has a lot of expectations, and I'm ready to see him on September 3rd.
That's what's up. What about you, Jeremiah? Tell them where they can find you, man.
Yeah, y'all can find me at @SSN_Longhorns on the Sideline Network. I'm just going to close by this. The most important thing that happened in this Texas program over the offseason is 2 words: Gary Patterson. He's going to change the way this defense operates, and he's an amazing evaluator of talent. He's going to help the recruiting front. He's going to bring something totally different to this team that I think is going to make a huge difference in the final record of this team this year.
That's what's up, man. You guys will be able to find all their information in the description. And I appreciate both of you guys for coming on, talking some Texas, man. Anytime you want to come on, you're always welcome. Especially, I know some people are going to be wanting to talk. If y'all do go 11-1, I'm pretty sure we'll hear it a lot from the Texas fans.
Yes. Oh, yeah, you will. That's a bet.
You will, for sure. Hook them.
Hey, that's what's up, man. For Jonathan Davis at Locked On Horns, man. Is it Locked On Horns or Locked On Longhorns?
Locked On Longhorns. Sorry, we couldn't get Locked On Longhorns on Twitter. You know what I'm saying? Sorry. So Locked On Horns. You know what I mean?
All right, for Jonathan, Locked On Longhorns, man, and Jeremiah, the SSN_Longhorns, man. This is Coach I, the Fanatic, and we out of here.
We got it jumping like it's that valley. I call my dogs out the pound. Let's go eat. Turn on the Fanatic. Let's have a debate. Who really hold down the Southeast from state to state? What team hungry gonna eat everything up off their plate?